This is Gumball destroying his entire city. And this is some chaos that Gumball caused, all because of a pizza.
Let's not panic. How bad can things get in 15 minutes?
I was bored, so I wanted to find out the exact amount of money that Gumball has cost Elmore. And you want to watch to the end to see this final number, because it's insane. So let's begin with an explosive start, literally, in The Nuisance. The Wattersons are summoned to the town hall and surprisingly get offered a brand new house, all the way in Ohio. And you may be wondering, why? Well, that's because the people of Elmore hate them so much that they collectively bought them an entire house, far, far away from them. And to be honest, I don't blame the citizens of Elmore for wanting to get rid of them. He actually wanted to kick out the Wattersons so he could sell the entirety of Elmore to some rich buyers. Of course, the Wattersons did not think this was right, and instead of packing their bags, Gumball and his family decided to destroy the entire town. And the purpose of this was to bring down the value of Elmore and scare off the rich buyers. The first thing Gumball does is let out a bunch of termites nearby a house, completely destroying the house in seconds. Mr. Small shows up acting all crazy and ends up attacking someone, which Gumball admits that it might be his doing and puts bath salts in the water supply.
That might be all the bath salts I've been pouring into the water supply.
It's not some huge explosion or anything, but it still does a ton of damage to Elmore. But that's nothing compared to the wild stuff they pull next. After causing a bunch of chaos around Elmore, the Wattersons pull the craziest stunt in this episode and set fire to most of Elmore. All of this just to save their town. But Elmore didn't exactly see it that way, as they got hit with tomatoes and were even more hated than before. The only person who seems to enjoy it though is Richard. He's just eating those tomatoes thrown at him. He's hungry. So the total cost of damages in this episode comes out to a whopping $55,350,000. But if you think that's crazy, sit back and grab a snack, because I promise you, this is just the beginning. In the episode The Curse, Gumball has the worst luck imaginable. He gets dragged along by the school bus, embarrassed by his clothes, and he even ends up in detention. But things only get worse as his bad luck follows him around everywhere, spreading chaos all over Elmore. His string of bad luck, though, really begins in detention, where Gumball just sits there doing nothing, thinking if he just sits next to Principal Brown watching him, nothing bad could possibly happen. Great plan, Gumball, but that wouldn't make an entertaining episode now, would it? So Principal Brown angrily slams the door, setting off a chain reaction. The ceiling light breaks and the cover falls onto the books, launching pencils at Gumball, which damages a class photo behind him. One of the pencils turn on a fan and knocks over a vase with water into an electrical port, breaking a radiator cap, which explodes the classroom and then the school. His bad luck escalates as he rides a mop bucket down Elmore Highway, causing a truck full of wheels to fall off, a semi-truck to crash, and a huge domino effect that knocks over several towers. The total cost of damages in this episode comes up to $1,240,370. But we're not even at 1% of the total damage Gumball has caused to Elmore over the series. And this wouldn't be the last time Gumball completely destroyed Elmore Junior High. In the episode The Butterfly, Gumball gets a new class pet, and Miss Simeon's only rule for this pet is not to release it into the wild. But Gumball and Darwin, being, well, Gumball and Darwin, they do it anyway. It's not like it can destroy a whole city or anything. Oh, I guess I was wrong. Turns out, in the world of Gumball, something as small as a butterfly flapping its wings can cause a chain of events that ends up causing something like a tornado to happen. What starts all of this is the orange construction man, Hank, who is afraid of the butterfly. In his attempt to get rid of it, he loses his head, literally, which causes his partner George's hands to detach. Hank's head then ends up hitting Mr. Robinson, causing him to crash his car. Later in the episode, things escalate when a group of people flood the Elmore help desk with complaints that have all been caused by the butterfly. which overwhelms the office worker, who ends up throwing her desk out the window. This desk causes cars to crash into each other and people to topple over, creating a domino effect which ends up causing a giant tornado. Wow, who would have thought that Gumball, simply letting go of a tiny, innocent butterfly, could trigger such a chaotic chain of events? Honestly, I'd just lock him up under maximum security before he accidentally puts all of Elmore in danger again. However, most of the destruction caused by Gumball seems to be unintentional, but this is about to change. Let's talk about the episode The Colossus, where Gumball and Darwin get a little salty when Hector denies their friend request on Elmore Plus. So they try confronting him and make fun of Hector by calling him boring. To prove he's not, Hector invites him over. But I guess Gumball gets the impression that Hector's life was being controlled a little bit too much by his mom. So Gumball tells Hector it's time to stand up for himself a little, which he shouldn't have done because Hector is a giant. So what do you think would happen if he decided to become evil? Well, it turns out he could wreck Elmore entirely, as he ends up going full rampage mode, unleashing his emotions to the city of Elmore. Hector crashes a food truck and then slips and destroys Mr. Robinson's house before collapsing on the Elmore football stadium. With no other option, Gumball climbs up and whistles a tune to calm him down, finally putting the end to Hector's destruction. At the end of the episode, Gumball does smash his computer, but because we're talking about Elmore, we're not gonna count that. However, in a later episode called The Finale, which will be important later, it's mentioned that Hector destroyed 75% of Elmore, and the Wattersons had to pay their half, which was $800,000. That means the total damage would be $1.6 million, but honestly, that doesn't seem like enough. If 75% of Elmore was destroyed, the actual cost to fix everything would probably be a lot more. Your typical mansion would be $1.6 million, not an entire town. So if 75% of Elmore was truly destroyed, that number could be at least $300 million, if not a lot more. If something like Godzilla could cause billions of dollars in damage in Tokyo, it makes total sense for Hector to do close to a quarter of that to a small town like Elmore. If I had a popsicle for every time Gumball led a giant monster to destroy Elmore, I would have 2 popsicles, because in the episode The Microwave, things go once again completely wrong for Gumball. In this episode, Gumball shows off his latest invention, the Gross Jar, a very fitting name for a jar full of the randomest things you could possibly think of. Either way, Gumball thinks it's the next big thing, until himself and Darwin decide to microwave it, because why not make it even more gross and disgusting? However, the microwave actually turns it into a living creature, which they name Kenneth. At first, Kenneth doesn't seem too dangerous, but as soon as Kenneth finds out how tasty eating people actually is, or in this case, animals, or whatever the other characters are in Elmore, there's a lot of weird characters, whatever. Anyways, Kenneth becomes a giant monster who keeps eating people to get even bigger. They did stop Kenneth and save the day, but Kenneth's cuteness wins over the Wattersons and causes Kenneth to become even bigger than before, destroying the whole city of Elmore like it's a Godzilla movie. The exact amount of damage is unknown, but since we know how much damage a middle school student, Hector, can do to Elmore, then I wouldn't be surprised if Kenneth destroyed Elmore entirely. However, in the episode The Finale, he's seen to be kept in the Wattersons' freezer for some reason, meaning they were able to probably stop him before he could destroy the whole town. But I'll still give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he caused 500 million worth of damages to Elmore before he was defeated. But don't worry, because Gumball finally gets a taste of his own medicine for all of the damages he caused to Elmore in the episode The Finale, which, despite the name, is not at all the finale to Gumball's damages. In the episode, Hector's mom demands the Wattersons to pay for the damages caused by Hector's rampage. In a previous episode we talked about called The Colossus, which destroyed a lot of Elmore. And as we said before, Gumball's family owes $800,000 to fix the town, which I think it's actually a lot more than that, but okay, whatever. And if they don't pay it back by tomorrow, they're gonna lose their house. However, before that, Richard tries to make some money by hijacking a bus and crashing it into Penny's house.
Okay, fine, you're right. The front door wasn't wide enough for a bus.
They eventually all end up in jail, and everything seems unfixable for the Wattersons. However, after a motivational speech from Gumball, they break out of jail and go with Anais's plan to create even more problems, hoping the episode fixes itself. At school, Gumball and Darwin race down the hall, causing chaos by vandalizing a wall, triggering the fire alarm, and knocking over a few students. Meanwhile, Hector and Kenneth cause even more mayhem in Elmore. As the chaos unfolds, Hector chases Nicole, while Richard and Anais are pursued by a giant Kenneth who swallows a bus. This leads to a standoff between Hector and Kenneth as they battle to prove who's the stronger being. The total damage in this episode alone is over $101,435,000, bringing our total so far to over $1 billion. Yeah! Oh wait, that's not something we should be proud of. And you'd think after causing this enormous amount of damage, Gumball would be nearing the end of his destructive streak. Things are about to start really ramping up. In the episode The Pizza, the Wattersons are having the worst day ever. Too angry to cook, Nicole has Richard order a very specific pizza from Larry. While they're waiting, they share their bad day stories, all involving Larry and refusing to tip him. Nicole causes $750 in car damage.
$100? Excuse me?
Better make that 200.
What?
500?
What?
750.
Richard overheats and causes chaos.
Sir, stop that! Sir, you need to leave! You've had enough!
I'll tell you when I've had enough.
Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to pay for that. I'm sorry, but it's company policy to ask. Would you like to add a tip? Okay.
And the kids ruin Larry's video store business.
Guys, please! You're killing my business here!
Notice a pattern? Well, Anais does, because she realizes that the person who had the worst day is Larry. He appeared in all of their backstories and got little to no respect from any of them. But before they can apologize, they find out Larry quit, which causes total chaos in Elmore. Since he did pretty much every job, all of Elmore rebels, with everyone fending for themselves, leaving it to be a total wasteland. The only positive would be that all the characters look cool as they take a different look to fit that apocalypse feel. The Wattersons eventually find Larry, apologize to him, and tip him money that now isn't worth anything because of inflation. Yes, it got that bad. Their currency is literally worth nothing. They would probably have to fix Elmore with a different type of currency, like rats, just like how Richard was ready to pay Larry at the end of the episode. However, for the sake of the video, let's stay with the trusty old dollar. To rebuild Elmore back to how it was, it makes sense that the cost to fix the state of Elmore could range from 1 to 2 billion smackaroons. To be safe and to be close to the actual cost to fix Elmore, let's go with $1 billion. A hefty price because they couldn't treat my boy Larry with a little bit of respect. Someone needs to check in with the mayor from the first episode, because how the heck does this guy find the money to rebuild Elmore all over again? I knew this guy was fishy from the beginning. It feels like we spent a lot of this video talking about Gumball unintentionally destroying Elmore. So let's switch things up and talk about the episode The Money, where Gumball's selfishness and obsession with his image almost caused the entire city of Elmore and the whole show to come crashing down. In this episode, the Wattersons are at the Joyful Burger ordering food when Nicole's credit card gets declined. Turns out that Richard deposited their money by literally throwing it into the sea.
Richard, what exactly have you done with my, actually my money?
Like I said, I put it offshore. But not before converting it into gold.
Why would anyone put Richard in charge of that in the first place? Beats me. Anyways, after Nicole almost goes crazy, Larry offers them roles in a Joyful Burger commercial. However, Gumball, holding on to his pride, refuses and convinces them to live with dignity in poverty. That night, reality hits hard, with them having no food and no power. With nothing left, Gumball tries to keep the morale up with the song. But then, the entire show starts breaking down, and they just start getting on a lower and lower budget. Even though it looked awesome visually, this definitely counts as Gumball costing Elmore a pretty penny. Yeah, they fixed it in the end, but the whole world was literally falling apart, and even Rocky just kind of disappeared. So like, what happened to him? He is most likely fine, but you understand my point. Gumball still caused trillions of dollars worth of damages. So what's the total cost of damages? Well, if we assume their world is worth around the same as Earth, it would cost around $1 quadrillion, which would bring the total amount that Gumball cost Elmore to 1,2,2,397,970. And there are still so many more examples of Gumball costing Elmore millions on a daily basis. But if we covered all of them, we'd be here all day. So if you have an episode in mind, drop it in the comments below. And hey, since you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. Please subscribe, my ego depends on subscribers.